this thread has gone viral. It's been viewed by nearly 10 million people just in the first 24 hours that it was posted. So I've gotten a lot of questions from you guys about what I think about this. Is this true? Is it a conspiracy theory? What do we make of this? And so I thought, okay, well, let's sit down together and actually do together what I do to analyze these things. Let's sort through what's fact, what's verified, what's unverified, what's unverifiable, and I'll give you my take. I'll give you my analysis. I'll share my thought process with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through the tweets that he tweeted in this tweet thread, and we'll analyze it as we go. At the end, I'll tell you what my full take on the thread is. Okay, so he starts out by saying, allow me to address why U.S. establishment politicians are sending tanks, jets, weapons, equipment, and $100+ billion to Ukraine. It has nothing to do with Ukrainian citizens and everything to do with deep state assets and secrets in Ukraine. He says, let's go back to when and where it all began. Flashback to 2005. Then Senator Obama and Senator Lugar visited former Soviet biological and chemical facilities in Ukraine and established the U.S. deep state roots in Ukraine to quote-unquote counter bioweapons. Okay, so let's pause there for 1 second. In this second tweet, there are three claims made. The first claim is that Senator Obama and Senator Lugar visited Russia. That's true. That's verifiably true. That's a fact. That while they were in Ukraine, or I should say they visited Ukraine, and they visited these chemical facilities, these former bioweapons labs. That is also true. Okay, verifiable, true. And then he says, and while they were there, they established U.S. deep state roots in Ukraine. That is an inference. That is not a verifiable fact. We'll get to which are important and which are not, but I want to establish what is fact and what is inference. There's no evidence provided in this tweet thread that they established U.S. deep state roots in Ukraine. Doesn't mean it's not true, but no evidence in this particular thread. Okay, moving on. When speaking of the labs in 2005, here's how they were described by the Washington Post. The labs were, quote, part of a Cold War network of anti-plague stations that supplied highly lethal pathogens to Soviet bioweapons factories. So when Russia does anti-plague research, it's bioweapons. That's all true. All of these bioweapons labs in Ukraine, and perhaps we should actually step out of this thread for a second and say about a year ago, this same Twitter account published a similarly viral thread talking about the U.S. bioweapons labs in Ukraine, or the U.S. affiliated bioweapons labs in Ukraine. And at the time, all these fact checkers from all these mainstream media outlets said that's not true, that's false, there are no U.S. bioweapons labs in Ukraine. And it turns out there are. It turns out that the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine actually had on their website confirmation that there are U.S. bioweapons labs in Ukraine, that the U.S. took control of former Soviet bioweapons labs. So that's sort of the background of this secondary thread. After that first thread went viral, that in the pre-Elon Twitter days, Twitter kicked War Clandestine off Twitter. Just 3 days ago, he was restored. He was finally brought back in the, obviously, Elon Musk Twitter era, or Elon era of Twitter. And he publishes this second thread. So it is true that there are bioweapons labs in Ukraine and that they were part of a Cold War network of anti-plague stations, which was just a front for bioweapons research.